Idag välkomnar vi Amniotics vd Kåre Engkilde. Amniotics är ett biopharmaföretag som utvecklar framtidens cellterapiläkemedel baserat på stamceller från fostervatten. Under 2022 passerar Amniotics en avgörande milstolpe. Då inleds en klinisk studie med bolagets första läkemedelskandidat, pulmostem, som utvecklas för läkning av lungskador. Welcome, Kåre.
Thank you. Thank you. Very glad to be here.
Tell us about Amniotics and the company's business concept to develop stem cell-based therapies focused on diseases where there are currently a lack of effective treatments.
Sure, we'll be certain to do that. You could say Amniotics is a rather young company. We were founded back in 2015 by the finding that there was what's called mesenchymal stem cells in a full-term amniotic fluid. And from that, you said we build a company building upon this and building a platform of this by being able to take tissue-specific mesenchymal stem cells from this fluid, from the amniotic fluid. Hence, we have these neonatal cells, enabling us to have multiple indications and using these cells for a number of indications where there's a high unmet need and where the present treatments are not very efficacious.
And you have developed a unique platform technology that diversifies your business and makes it possible to develop many different types of drugs. Tell me more about that.
Exactly. You could say what you just briefly entered into is really where I see a big strength of Amniotics, the ability to have several product pipelines at the same time moving forward into several market spaces and areas where there's a really high unmet need. Each of these products has the ability to regenerate the tissue that it's aimed for. And it's kind of, you could say, tailor-made by being able to have neonatal cells from the amniotic fluid for these tissues and being able to regenerate those tissues.
You have an in-house GMP facility since 2020, which means that you can produce your own drugs. What factors make this in-house production facility a competitive advantage for the company?
Well, you could say what I really see is that producing cell therapies is much more complicated than producing a small molecule. You really need to have that know-how and knowledge of how doing that. It also means that you could say have the full value chain all the way from the fluid coming in and all the way out to filling up vials ready for clinical trials, out licensing. So it opens up a lot of flexibility for the company, for Amniotics, meaning that we can have the product ready in time at the right time, you could say ready for clinical trials, out licensing on the market. It also opens up for the possibility to work as a contract manufacturers for other companies because there are very few companies that has that competence and have built that in-house competence being able to produce their cell therapies for others. So it's also, you could say, a business opportunity to be able to work as a contract manufacturer for others.
In 2022, you are planning a phase 1 and phase 2 study of pulmostem for respiratory diseases in COVID-19 patients. Tell us more about the study and your drug candidate, pulmostem.
Certainly, you could say this is very, you could say, interesting times where we have the first in man with the first or our most advanced product, so our first product going into man. And this is pulmostem for respiratory indications, going towards hospitalized COVID-19 patients or going towards acute respiratory distress syndrome. This product has the ability to reduce the inflammation, modulating the immune area or milieu in there, also reducing the fibrotic areas and some removing somewhat of the scarring. So this is really, you could say, very, very interesting times. And this study will look, of course, on safety and tolerability, but it will also look at some of the efficacy markers as secondary readouts, such as the anti-inflammatory markers, anti-fibrotic markers, and generally speaking, you could say, speaking about the well-being of the patients, because we're also looking into what's called fatigue. You could say, are these patients, how well do they feel afterwards? Are they tired? Are they worn out? Or are they getting better? So really, really interesting times right now.
What factors makes Amniotics an attractive company for prospective shareholders?
Well, you could say, really speaking to what we've already covered, we have really an interesting time right now, just briefly before the start of the clinical study, where we really, you could say, will start having that clinical picture, the human data to build upon. Also a company with a very diversified pipeline targeting multiple indications with high unmet need. So speaking again to the dermatology space, the respiratory space, the kidney space, and the brain/CNS space. So really you could say areas that we all know will increase in the coming years and where there's not really a good treatment there. But also you could say the ability to have a revenue by working as a contract manufacturer presently for other companies. I think all of that coming together really builds a strong investment case in amniotics.
What can shareholders expect from Amniotics in the coming years?
You would say, expecting wise, of course, it's always hard to forecast what's coming, especially when it comes to pharma. But of course, clinical data from this study, looking upon that, certainly safety and tolerability, but also some of the early efficacy readouts. Then you could say some of the potential out-licensing possibilities with this product candidate to other companies, because we have the ability to out-license both at an early time point, but also at a later time point. And in that situation, you could say there's of course revenue from that. There's also milestones and so forth, and manufacturing rights that we will keep. And also, of course, doing contract manufacturers for other companies where we will work as experts in producing these products and getting them ready for the clinical trials. So you could say there's multiple, you could say, news that will coming out for this company in the coming years, and of course, growing the value of the company in coming years.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kåre.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.